All right, let's dive into West Virginia folklore. We've got a whole bunch of stories, legends, even some historical accounts. It's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you've got all these incredible tales, but it's more than just like spooky campfire stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what are we really hoping to uncover here?
Well, I think it's really about understanding how West Virginia's history and this mix of cultures, it's really unique how all that shaped the stories people tell. It's like a cultural tapestry.
Yeah.
You had all these immigrants coming in the late 1800s, early 1900s, drawn by the mining the railroads, people from all over, Spain, Italy, Poland, even parts of the Middle East,
Wow.
all bringing their own traditions and beliefs.
So it's kind of like West Virginia almost became like a melting pot of folklore with all these different influences just kind of bubbling up together.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so fascinating. I mean, you have Asturian miners from Spain drawn to the Appalachian Mountains because it reminded them of home. You have the Polish communities in Wheeling. It's just incredible, the diversity.
Yeah. So for our listeners out there, I mean, if you've ever felt like an outsider or part of like a really distinct community, this is how stories like help people find belonging, help them find a shared identity.
Absolutely. It's a way to connect with others who share similar experiences or backgrounds.
Okay, so let's get into some specific examples. We should probably start by clarifying the difference between like folk tales and legends, right?
Definitely.
What's the distinction there?
So folktales are more like fictional narratives,
Yeah.
often passed down orally, usually meant to entertain or teach a lesson.
Okay.
Legends, on the other hand, they're believed to have some basis in historical fact, even if they've been embellished over time.
Got it. So something like Old Rawhead and Bloody Bones, that would be like a classic folk tale. That name alone is pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine hearing that as a kid?
It's definitely one of those tales meant to keep children in line.
Oh, for sure.
This creature, Rawhead and Bloody Bones, it's described as living under the stairs, ready to snatch up any disobedient kids.
Oh, wow.
There's this one version recorded by Andova Jackson Willis, who is an Appalachian folklorist. It paints a really chilling picture. There's this lonely little girl who calls down the stairs, wants someone to play with.
Oh, no.
And the voice that answers back promises to come up soon. It's got echoes of Little Red Riding Hood, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, totally. That innocent child calling out totally unaware of the danger lurking below.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a pretty brilliant way to tap into like those primal fears,
Yeah.
right? The vulnerability of children.
It is, and these boogeyman figures, they appear in cultures all around the world. They actually serve a deeper psychological purpose.
Oh, really?
They help children grapple with the concept of fear, of the unknown.
Interesting.
It's a way to externalize those anxieties and, in a way, control them.
Okay, so even these seemingly simple tales can have these like layered meanings and functions within a culture. That's fascinating. Now let's talk about another creepy story, one that's even made its way into like popular culture. Where's my big toe?
Ooh, yeah, that one's a classic.
Have you heard that one?
Oh, yeah. It's a master class in suspense. And the use of jump scares in oral storytelling,
Yeah.
it plays on those very primal fears, bodily harm, the unseen, the disrespect of the dead.
It's like all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story, as I understand it, involves an old woman who finds a toe while gardening. She just kind of tosses it aside and goes about her day.
Right, just like no big deal.
Yeah.
But then later that night,
Here it comes.
she hears this raspy voice asking, "Where's my big toe?" And with each repetition, the voice gets closer. The suspense builds.
a car.
And you can practically feel that chill running down your spine.
Yeah.
It's no wonder this tale has resonated with people for generations.
And what's fascinating is that this story, it wasn't just confined to Appalachia. It even popped up in Elvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That book series terrified me as a kid.
Oh, yeah, me too. Schwartz actually adapted The Big Toe for his collection. And even though he kind of toned it down for a younger audience, that core fear, the consequences of disrespecting the dead, it remained intact.
It's wild how these folktales can be adapted and retold and still be so creepy.
It's the power of the story,
Okay, we've had our fill of scares for now. Let's switch gears to something a bit more heartwarming, even touching. Angel of Mercy.
Yes.
This one explores themes of family loss and the idea that loved ones might still be with us even after they're gone.
It's a story that offers solace in the face of grief, which is a really powerful function of folklore, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So the story takes place in the middle of winter. This family is facing the loss of their wife and mother. They have to make this difficult journey through heavy snow to get a coffin. On their way back, exhausted, freezing, they're met by this mysterious woman carrying a lantern. She guides them home, and when they look back,
They realize the woman is the deceased, returned to watch over her family one last time.
Wow.
It's such a poignant image, you know, the idea that even in death, our loved ones might still be looking out for us.
I mean, it speaks to those deep-seated human desires, right? Connection, comfort, a sense that we're not truly alone, even in the face of loss.
Right. It's like folklore is offering a way to process those difficult emotions,
Yeah.
to find a glimmer of hope in the darkness.
And these themes, they resonate across cultures throughout history.
They do. The belief in ancestral spirits, the idea that death isn't a complete severing of ties, these are concepts that people have grappled with for centuries.
So even in a tale as seemingly simple as Angel of Mercy, we can see these universal human anxieties and desires being explored. It's incredible how much depth there is to these stories
It is.
when you start to peel back the layers.
Exactly. That's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just looking at spooky stories or quaint traditions. We're exploring the very heart of what it means to be human, to experience joy and sorrow, to grapple with the mysteries of life and death.
Okay, before we get too philosophical, let's delve into another intriguing aspect of West Virginia folklore, the belief in the evil eye. This one was primarily brought to the region by Italian immigrants, and it speaks to the very real power of belief in shaping our experiences.
It really does. The idea that a jealous person's gaze can cause actual harm. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Reflects cultural anxieties around envy, the potential for ill will to manifest in physical symptoms. And it's not just an abstract concept. There are stories that illustrate the very real impact this belief had on people's lives.
One story that stood out in our research is the beautiful hair. It's about this young girl with gorgeous hair who lets a friend trim it. Afterward, she's plagued by these awful headaches. Her mother, suspecting the evil eye, finds the hair clippings being boiled in water by the envious friend.
It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
The belief was that by destroying the object that attracted the evil eye, in this case the hair, the curse could be broken. And of course, once the hair is removed from the boiling water, the girl's headaches miraculously disappear.
Whether it's a psychosomatic response or something more, it's a testament to the power of belief and ritual. It's like the mind can create its own reality, especially when those beliefs are so deeply ingrained in a culture.
It raises questions about the nature of illness, the interplay between mind and body, the ways in which our cultural beliefs can shape our very perceptions of the world. It's a reminder that reality is often a subjective experience, influenced by a complex web of beliefs and expectations.
All right, let's shift our focus to another major player in West Virginia folklore, the devil himself.
Oh boy.
These tales are where that melting pot of cultures becomes really evident.
Absolutely. The devil in West Virginia folklore. He's not a one-size-fits-all figure.
Right.
He takes on many forms, reflecting the diverse influences of the region. Sometimes he's a dapper young man, other times a monstrous beast, even a ball of fire.
And his role in these stories is just as varied. Sometimes he's the classic tempter trying to lure people into making deals with him. We came across one story where he tries to trick this young girl into signing a book with her blood. But she cleverly recognizes his cloven hooves and refuses.
Oh, that's a good one. That story highlights the theme of recognizing evil, of making the right choice even when faced with temptation. It's a moral lesson embedded within a thrilling narrative. But in other tales, the devil's role is less straightforward. He can even be a catalyst for change, even a force for good in a strange way.
You're thinking of the story of the White Raven Inn, right? This rowdy roadhouse where the devil suddenly bursts through the floor.
Oh, yeah.
It's seen straight out of a horror movie.
Except instead of causing chaos, he just sort of flies around for a bit and disappears.
What?
And the strange thing is, everyone who witnessed it became deeply religious afterward. It's like his presence, however brief and bizarre, served as a wake-up call, prompting them to confront their own mortality and seek a deeper meaning in life.
So the devil in West Virginia folklore isn't just a symbol of evil, he's a complex figure, sometimes embodying temptation, other times acting as this strange force for spiritual awakening.
It really shows how folklore can reflect the nuances of a culture's beliefs and anxieties.
All right, we've explored the devil in all his various forms. Now let's turn our attention to another figure that looms large in West Virginia folklore. The witch.
Ah, the witch.
Just like with the devil, the concept of a witch takes on different meanings depending on the cultural lens.
Right. Some witches were feared, believed to possess the power to curse or hex. Others were sought out for their healing powers, or their knowledge of herbs and folk remedies. It's a fascinating duality, isn't it? The witch is both a figure of fear and a source of healing. reflecting the complexities of human nature and the power of belief.
We came across a fascinating figure in our research, Jesse Bales, a self-proclaimed witch doctor who saw himself as a fighter against evil magic. He passed his knowledge down to his son, creating this lineage of healers within the community.
That's right. It's a reminder that the role of a healer was often intertwined with beliefs in magic and the supernatural, especially in remote areas where access to doctors was limited. People relied on those who possessed knowledge of traditional remedies and rituals.
Then there's the story of the Hungarian witch. This recluse, who was rumored to teach magic to a curious young girl. She dies under mysterious circumstances, adding an air of intrigue and danger to the tale.
Right. It's almost like a cautionary tale, highlighting the allure of forbidden knowledge and the potential consequences of delving into the unknown.
It speaks to the anxieties surrounding those who are perceived as different rights, those who possess knowledge or abilities that defied conventional understanding.
Exactly. The witch often became a scapegoat for unexplained events, a way to explain the unexplainable, and perhaps even control those who didn't conform to societal norms.
And of course, we can't forget about the enduring fascination with fortune-telling. We found a story about Margaret Rogers, whose future was supposedly predicted by her aunt using cards and a coffee mug.
Oh, yeah.
It's a timeless human desire, isn't it, to try to glimpse into the future, to make sense of the uncertain nature of life?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, people crave a sense of control, a way to navigate the unpredictable currents of fate, whether those methods are rooted in genuine belief or simply a way to seek comfort in the unknown. They speak to the very human need to find meaning and order in the world.
So we've got witches as healers, witches as figures of fear, witches as fortune tellers. It's a testament to how multifaceted these figures can be, how they embody both the anxieties and aspirations of a culture. But what struck me about all these witch stories is how that label witch was often applied to those who were seen as different, as outsiders.
It's a recurring theme throughout history. The witch becomes a symbol of otherness, a way to ostracize those who don't fit in, who challenge the status quo. It's a reminder that folklore can reflect not only the beauty and wonder of a culture, but also its darker impulses, its fears and prejudices.
That's a sobering thought, but an important one to consider as we continue to explore these tales. It reminds us that even the most seemingly fantastical stories can reveal deeper truths about the societies that created them.
Exactly. By examining these stories with a critical eye, by understanding their historical and cultural contexts, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of the past, and perhaps even learn valuable lessons about our own present.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've journeyed through spooky tales, heartwarming legends, chilling encounters with the devil, and even delved into the complex world of witches.
We have. And we've seen how these stories reflect the history, beliefs, and anxieties of the people who created them, but we've only just scratched the surface of this rich and fascinating subject.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll continue to explore the wonders and complexities of West Virginia folklore.
Gotcha, wait.
You know, as we've been talking about all this, I just realized a lot of West Virginia folklore isn't just about the supernatural. It's really grounded in, like, everyday life stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, especially when it comes to health and healing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Folk medicine was huge in Appalachian communities, especially in remote areas where doctors were hard to come by.
Yeah, makes sense.
Our sources are full of examples of these traditional remedies. Some of them might seem a little strange to us now.
Oh, I bet. Like, what kinds of things?
Well, there's that one about swallowing a live minnow to cure whooping cough.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. Seriously, a live minnow.
Yeah, it sounds a bit out there, but I guess when you're desperate, you'll try anything.
Right, of course. I can't even imagine.
It speaks to the resourcefulness of these communities, though. Their reliance on what they could find in nature.
Yeah.
These remedies might not have always been scientifically sound, but they often gave people a sense of control, like they were doing something to fight back against illness.
Right, it's that sense of agency.
Exactly.
So it wasn't just about eating things, though, right? What other kinds of remedies were there?
Well, there were all kinds of beliefs about using certain objects or rituals for healing, like carrying a buckeye, for example.
A buckeye?
Yeah, to ward off arthritis and rheumatism.
Huh, interesting.
It was small, portable, you could easily carry it around.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But people would have it with them all the time.
Yeah.
Offering a sense of protection and comfort.
I can just imagine someone, like, clutching their buckeye as they go about their day.
Exactly.
Hoping it'll ease their pain.
It's a tangible connection to their belief in these folk traditions.
That's really cool. And these beliefs weren't just about physical ailments either, right?
Not at all.
There were all those superstitions, too,
Oh, yeah, tons of them.
for like navigating the uncertainties of life.
Exactly. Trying to find some sense of order in a world that could often feel unpredictable.
Like, what kind of superstitions are we talking about?
Well, some were about attracting good luck, like kissing the hem of your dress to make a wish.
Really?
Yeah, or finding a four-leaf clover.
Okay.
Others were about avoiding bad luck, like never opening an umbrella indoors
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
or sweeping the floor at night.
Never heard that one.
These superstitions, they were passed down through generations, acted like a set of unwritten rules, a way to navigate the complexities of daily life.
It's almost like they provided a framework for understanding cause and effect, right?
Exactly.
Like believing that certain actions could influence the course of events.
It might seem irrational to us now, but these beliefs served a real purpose for the people who held them.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was about having some sense of control in a world where so much felt beyond their influence.
Especially when you consider the harsh winters, the rugged terrain,
Yet,
the constant threat of illness or injury. It makes sense that people would cling to these beliefs, these rituals that offered even a small measure of comfort or protection.
it speaks to the human need to find meaning and order in the face of chaos.
Yeah. And it wasn't just about individual beliefs either.
Right.
It was shared by the community.
It was woven into the fabric of their collective experience.
It was about connecting to a shared history, a sense of belonging.
Feeling like you're part of something larger than yourself.
Exactly. Tapping into that collective wisdom, those generations of experience that have shaped the traditions and beliefs of a culture.
Okay, so we've explored all these fascinating aspects of West Virginia folklore, but I want to kind of shift gears for a moment and bring it back to you, the listener.
Yes, good idea.
Because folklore isn't just something you read about in books or hear on podcasts, right?
Right.
It's a living tradition that exists within each of us,
Exactly.
within our own families and communities. Think about it. Every family has its own stories, its own traditions, its own little bits of folklore that have been passed down. Maybe it's a tale about a mischievous ghost that haunts your hometown, or a superstition about how to ensure good luck on a fishing trip.
Right. Or maybe it's a simple recipe for a dish that's been passed down through generations, a taste of your family history.
Whatever form it takes, your personal folklore is a treasure trove of insights into your own history,
Yeah.
your own identity. It's a way to connect with your past, to understand where you come from, what makes you unique.
So here's a little challenge for you. Think about the stories, the beliefs, the traditions that have been passed down in your own family or your community. What do they reveal about the values, the fears, the hopes of the people who came before you?
Don't just think about it. Write those stories down, share them with others. Keep those traditions alive.
Because your personal folklore is a part of who you are.
It deserves to be celebrated.
You never know, your stories might just inspire future generations, adding new layers to the ever-evolving tapestry of human experience.
That's a beautiful thought. It's a reminder that folklore isn't static. It's constantly evolving, being reshaped and reinterpreted with each new generation.
Okay, before we wrap up this episode, there's one more aspect of West Virginia folklore we need to explore. It's about how these stories born out of the mountains and hollers of the state have resonated with people far beyond its borders.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how these tales have captured the imaginations of people from all walks of life,
So true.
influencing popular culture, inspiring countless works of art and literature.
What are some examples of that?
Well, one of the most striking examples is the enduring popularity of scary stories to tell in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Alvin Schwartz's adaptation of Where's My Big Toe? It brought that chilling tale to a whole new audience, solidifying its place in the pantheon of childhood nightmares.
For sure.
And let's not forget the 2019 film adaptation, which introduced those creepy stories to an even wider audience.
Right.
Just goes to show the power of these tales to transcend time and place, tapping into those primal fears that resonate with people across cultures.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Then there's the work of Ruth Ann Music, the folklorist whose collection, The Telltale Lilac Bush, has become a classic.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a treasure trove of West Virginia folklore and ghost stories.
Her work has been studied by scholars, inspired countless other writers and artists to explore the rich tapestry of West Virginia folklore.
It's amazing to think how these stories, born out of the specific cultural and geographical landscape of West Virginia, have had such a far-reaching impact.
It speaks to the enduring power of storytelling, the way in which these tales can transcend boundaries and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Well, folklore isn't just about entertainment, is it?
No, it's about understanding ourselves and the world around us. It's about connecting to the past, making sense of the present, and envisioning the future.
And West Virginia, with its unique blend of cultures, history, and landscape, has made a real mark on the world of folklore, enriching our understanding of the human experience.
It's a legacy that deserves to be celebrated, explored, and passed on to future generations. And speaking of future generations, I think it's time for us to wrap up this part of our deep dive and leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Yes, let's give them something to chew on. As you go about your day today, try to notice the little bits of folklore that surround you. Pay attention to the stories people tell, the traditions they follow, the beliefs that shape their actions.
Think about the places you've been, the communities you've encountered, the stories you've heard along the way. Every place, every person has a story to tell, a bit of folklore that's waiting to be discovered.
Maybe it's a local legend you've never heard before, or a family tradition that's been passed down for generations. Whatever it is, take a moment to appreciate the richness and diversity of human experience. That's reflected in these tales.
Because within those stories, you might just find a deeper understanding of yourself, the world around you, and the shared human experience that connects us all.
And on that note, we'll take a little break and be back soon to wrap up this fascinating deep dive into the heart of West Virginia folklore. Okay, so, as we were just talking about those personal folklore challenges, it made me think about how important the landscape is to all these stories.
Oh, totally.
Like West Virginia with its mountains and forests and rivers, it practically breathes folklore.
Right. It's not just a backdrop. The landscape is practically like another character in a lot of these tales.
Yeah, that's true. Like Lover's Leap. That dramatic cliff becomes a symbol of that whole tragic love story. It's like the place where those emotions are just forever imprinted on the land.
And all those like shadowy hollows and dense forests, they're perfect for hiding creatures like Rawhead and Bloody Bones. Adds a whole other layer of mystery and fear to the landscape.
Right, and even just the idea of witches practicing magic. It takes on a whole different feel when you picture it happening in those like remote, wild places.
Absolutely. It's like the land itself has this supernatural energy,
Yeah, it really does. It's almost as if the landscape is like whispering these stories to the people who live there, shaping their beliefs and their imaginations.
And then the stories they tell end up shaping how they see the landscape.
Yeah.
Giving it deeper meaning.
It's a fascinating cycle.
It is.
The stories in the land are always influencing each other.
Creating this rich tapestry of folklore that's just woven into the very fabric of West Virginia.
It's a reminder that folklore isn't just about the past. It's about our ongoing relationship with the natural world, the ways we interact with and find meaning in the places we call home.
Well said. Speaking of finding meaning, I think it's time we start to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Huh.
From spooky creatures to helpful ghosts, tales of witches and devils, even those practical superstitions and folk remedies.
So much good stuff.
It's been quite a journey through the heart of West Virginia folklore.
But I think it's important for our listeners to remember that folklore isn't just something you passively consume. It's a living tradition. It thrives on being shared, passed down, even reinterpreted.
So true.
So, as you all go about your day today, keep your ears open for those echoes of the past.
Those stories that have been passed down through generations.
You might just overhear a fascinating local legend or rediscover a forgotten family tradition.
And when you do cherish those stories, share them with others and let the magic of folklore continue to weave its spell.
Because ultimately these stories, they're more than just entertainment. They're a window into the heart of a culture, a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and what we believe.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of storytelling alive. Who knows what fascinating tales and traditions you might uncover.
Well said. And on that note, dear listeners, we bid you farewell. Until next time, keep diving deep into the world around you. And may your journey be filled with wonder and discovery.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. The West Virginia Media Lab is all about celebrating our state and its people, businesses, stories, news, and folklore. If you love West Virginia like we do, be sure to comment below, then subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to stay connected. Until next time, stay wild, wonderful, West Virginia.